The message was supposed to be harmless. A throwaway joke. One of those half-laughing, half-exhausted texts you send when the day has already wrung you dry. My boss is so hot it should be illegal. Mark stared at his phone, thumb hovering, before adding a laughing emoji. He'd meant to send it to Dave, the only friend who knew what it was like to juggle spreadsheets by day and Lego landmines by night. The only one who understood how ridiculous it felt to be a 34-year-old single dad, still trying to act professional while his brain short-circuited every time his boss walked into the room.
He hit send.
The message delivered instantly. And then, the name at the top of the screen changed. Evelyn Carter. Mark's breath stopped. For a moment, his mind refused to accept it. He blinked once.
Twice.
Tilted the phone like the angle might magically rearrange reality.
No.
Still her name. Still his message. Still that stupid emoji. His stomach dropped so fast it felt like he might actually throw up on the carpeted floor of his tiny apartment. Oh no, he whispered. No, no, no. Evelyn Carter wasn't just his boss.
She was the CEO.
And not the kind who hid in corner offices and let assistants do the talking. Evelyn Carter ran meetings like a general ran battlefields, sharp eyes, sharper questions, and an unnerving ability to remember everyone's name, including their kids' names. She was polished in a way that made people sit straighter without knowing why.
Calm.
Controlled. Untouchable. And yes, hot. Devastatingly so. Mark had never said it out loud. Not to coworkers. Not even to Dave until that exact moment. It had stayed locked in his head, filed under thoughts that will ruin your career if spoken. And now it was sitting, glowing, undeniable, on his CEO's phone. He stared at the screen, waiting for the 3 little dots to appear. They didn't. Maybe she hadn't seen it yet. Maybe she was in a meeting. Maybe her phone was face down. Maybe the universe would show mercy, for once. His phone buzzed. Not a reply. A read receipt.
Seen.
Mark let out a strangled sound somewhere between a groan and a prayer. His mind raced. Apologize? Pretend it was meant for someone else? Claim autocorrect? Throw his phone into the nearest body of water and flee the state? Before he could decide, his daughter's voice drifted from the kitchen. Daddy, I can't find my blue socks. The blue socks. The only ones Lily would wear, because they felt safe. The socks he had washed, folded, and lost anyway. I'm coming, he called, forcing his voice to sound normal while his entire career collapsed in silence. He found Lily sitting cross-legged on the kitchen floor, her messy ponytail slipping sideways, her lunchbox open beside her. She looked up at him with wide, trusting eyes, the same eyes that reminded him every single day why he couldn't afford mistakes. Did you check the dryer? She asked. Yes, he said, rubbing his face.
Twice.
She sighed dramatically, like an 8-year-old who had already lived too long. Then I guess I'll wear the red ones. But I won't like it. Mark managed a weak smile. I know, kiddo. I'm sorry. As Lily ate her cereal, Mark's phone sat heavy in his pocket, like a ticking bomb. He didn't check it. He couldn't. He already knew whatever came next would change something. Maybe everything. Work had been his lifeline since Lily's mother walked out 3 years ago. The steady paycheck. The health insurance. The quiet pride of knowing he was holding it together, even when the nights were long and the mornings too early. And Evelyn Carter had noticed. She'd been the one to approve his flexible hours when Lily got sick. The one who nodded, not unkindly, when he apologized for leaving a meeting early for a school call. She never said much about it, but she saw everything, which somehow made this worse. Because now, when she looked at him, she wouldn't see a reliable analyst or a devoted father. She'd see that text. By the time Mark dropped Lily off at school, his phone was still silent. No reply. No reaction. The quiet stretched tighter with every red light on the drive to work. Maybe she was angry. Maybe she was offended. Maybe she was amused, which somehow felt even more dangerous. When he walked into the office, everything looked the same. The hum of printers. The low murmur of conversation. The smell of coffee. But Mark felt like every step might be his last. At his desk, he finally pulled out his phone. One new message. From Evelyn Carter. His hands shook as he opened it. We need to talk. My office. 10 o'clock. No emojis. No punctuation beyond the period. No mercy.
Mark stared at the time.
9:47 a.m. 13 minutes. 13 minutes until his life, as he knew it, either ended or changed in a way he couldn't yet imagine. 13 minutes can stretch longer than 13 hours when you're counting down to your own destruction. Mark tried to work. He really did. He opened spreadsheets, stared at numbers, clicked through emails without reading a single word. Every sound in the office felt louder, keyboards clacking like judgment, phones ringing like alarms. 9:48.
He loosened his tie.
Tightened it again. 9:51. He drafted an apology in his head. Deleted it. Drafted another. 9:54. His phone buzzed, not from Evelyn, but from Dave. Dave. Dude, you alive? Dave. Did she respond? Mark didn't answer. There was no way to explain the feeling of standing on the edge of a cliff while everyone else just walked past, unaware. At 9:57, he stood. His legs felt strangely heavy as he walked down the hall toward the executive wing. The carpet grew thicker, the lighting softer, like the building itself was cushioning the fall. Evelyn Carter's office door stood closed. Mark raised his hand. Knock. Knock. Come in, her voice called, calm and even. That was the worst part. He stepped inside. Her office was exactly what he'd expect. Clean lines, glass walls, a city view that made you feel small. Evelyn stood near her desk, tablet in hand, dressed in a tailored navy blazer that probably cost more than his monthly rent. She looked up. For just half a second, something flickered across her face. Not anger, not disgust. Amusement. Mark's heart sank.
Close the door, she said. He did.
Silence settled between them like fog. Evelyn gestured to the chair across from her desk. Sit, Mark. He sat.
Carefully.
Like sudden movement might make this worse. She set the tablet down and folded her arms, not defensively, but thoughtfully. Before we begin, she said, I want you to know this conversation stays in this room. Mark swallowed. Thank you. That said, she continued, tilting her head, I'm curious. How often do you text your friends things you don't intend for me to read? His face burned. Never. I mean, this was an accident.
I am so sorry.
I wasn't thinking. I would never. I know, she interrupted gently. That stopped him. She stepped around the desk and leaned against it, studying him the way she studied quarterly reports. You've worked here 3 years. You've never crossed a line. You're professional, reliable, and frankly, one of my best analysts. Relief rushed in, too soon, too fast. But then she added, which is why this surprised me. Mark nodded miserably. I understand if you want to write me up. Or fire me. I didn't mean any disrespect. Evelyn smiled slightly. If I fired every employee who thought their boss was attractive, I'd be running this company alone. He blinked. You're not angry? Oh, I'm uncomfortable, she said honestly. But not offended. She straightened. What concerns me isn't the text. It's the power imbalance. The potential for misunderstanding. And your reaction right now. My reaction? He echoed. You're terrified, she said. Not because you said something inappropriate, but because you can't afford the consequences. Her gaze sharpened. Tell me, what's at stake for you? The question caught him off guard. My daughter, he said before he could stop himself. Lily. Evelyn's expression softened. I know. Of course she did. She's 8. Mark continued quietly. Her mom left. It's just us. This job, this stability, it matters. Evelyn nodded once. Thank you for being honest. She walked back to her desk and picked up her phone. For a terrible moment, Mark wondered if she was calling HR. Instead, she turned the screen toward him. His text sat there, unchanged. I want to be clear, she said. I don't want this hanging over you. I don't want you flinching every time you see me in a meeting. He frowned. I don't understand. She took a breath. So, we're going to address it properly. Mark's pulse spiked.
How?
By setting boundaries, she said. And by asking a question you're allowed to answer honestly. She met his eyes. Was the text purely a joke? Or is there something else behind it? The room felt suddenly too small. Mark thought of late nights, of the way she listened when people spoke, of how she treated him like more than just a line on an org chart. He shook his head. It was a stupid, private thought. Nothing more. Evelyn studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Good. She placed her phone face down. Then here's what happens next. Nothing. He stared at her. Nothing. No write-up. No HR.
No gossip, she said.
You made a mistake. You owned it. We move forward. Relief washed over him, so hard his eyes stung. But she wasn't finished. That said, she added, I want you to know something too. He looked up. That text didn't offend me, she said quietly. But it did remind me how isolated leadership can be. Her voice softened. Sometimes people forget CEOs are human. Mark didn't know what to say. She stepped back behind her desk, the professional distance restored. You're dismissed, Mark. And for what it's worth, please double-check your recipients. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. He stood, legs unsteady. Thank you, Miss Carter. I won't let you down. I know, she said. As he reached the door, she added, Mark?
He turned.
For the record, she said evenly, I prefer honesty over perfection. Then she looked back at her tablet. The door closed behind him. Mark walked down the hallway in a daze. He hadn't been fired. He hadn't been humiliated. But something had shifted, something subtle, unspoken. And as he sat back at his desk, phone buzzing again in his pocket, he couldn't shake the feeling that the accidental text hadn't ruined his life. It had cracked a door open. And neither of them knew yet what would walk through it. For the next 3 weeks, nothing happened. And somehow, that was worse. Mark told himself the crisis was over. He went back to early mornings and rush lunches, to spreadsheets and school pickup lines. The office settled into its usual rhythm again. Meetings, deadlines, polite nods in the hallway. But every time Evelyn Carter entered a room, the air changed. It wasn't obvious. No one else seemed to notice. But Mark felt it. The faint pause, the subtle awareness, the unspoken memory hanging between them like a wire stretched too tight to see. They were careful.
Painfully so.
In meetings, Evelyn addressed him by his full name now, never just Mark the way she used to. Her feedback was precise, neutral, almost surgical. No lingering eye contact. No casual remarks. Professional. Impeccable. And yet, there were moments. Moments that caught him off guard and refused to let go. Like the time she asked him to stay after meeting, not alone, but with 2 other managers, and still managed to meet his eyes just a second longer than necessary when she thanked him for his insight. Or the morning he arrived late, soaked from rain, breathless from a delayed bus, expecting reprimand, and found a fresh mug of coffee waiting on his desk. Black. No sugar. Exactly how he took it. He never asked who left it there. He never had to. Then there were the emails.
Short. Direct.
Always copied to others. Except one. Subject: Budget forecast follow-up. Body: Your analysis was solid. Thank you for staying late last night.
E.
No CC. No BCC. Just her initial. Mark stared at the screen longer than he should have. He didn't reply. He couldn't risk it. At home, Lily noticed before he did. You're smiling at your phone again, she said one night, perched at the kitchen table coloring. Is it that lady from work? Mark nearly dropped his fork. What lady? The tall one, Lily said casually. With the shiny hair. You showed me her picture once when you said she helped you. He cleared his throat. She's just my boss. Lily hummed. She seems nice. She is, he said too quickly, then added. And that's all. But the truth was harder to ignore with each passing day. The line between them hadn't disappeared. It had sharpened. The breaking point came on a Thursday afternoon, disguised as a crisis. The company's biggest client pulled out of a contract, millions gone with a single email. The office buzzed with panic. Emergency meetings were called. Projections were revised. Blame floated quietly, dangerously. Mark was halfway through recalculating forecasts when Evelyn appeared at his desk. "I need you," she said.
Now.
Not later. Not emailed. Her office door closed behind them again. She paced as she spoke, jacket off, sleeves rolled, the CEO mask slipping just enough to show strain. "If we don't present a recovery plan by tomorrow morning, the board will eat us alive." "I can run alternative models," Mark said immediately. "Cut costs, adjust timelines." "I know you can," she said, stopping. "That's why I asked you." Her trust landed heavier than any compliment. They worked for hours. Whiteboards filled. Coffee cups multiplied. Outside the glass walls, the office emptied until it was just them and the hum of fluorescent lights. At one point, Mark rubbed his eyes, exhausted. Evelyn noticed. "You should go," she said. "It's late." "I'm fine. You have a daughter." The words weren't judgmental. They were careful. "She's with a sitter," he said. "I'll pick her up after." Evelyn nodded, then surprised him by sitting beside him instead of across the desk. Close enough that he could smell her perfume, something clean and subtle. "Mark," she said quietly, "I need to ask you something. And you can say no." His chest tightened. "Okay. Do you feel uncomfortable working with me?" The question stunned him. "No," he said immediately, then paused. "Do you?" She considered that. "I feel aware." They sat in the silence that followed. She spoke first. "I won't cross a line. I won't put you in a position where your job feels unsafe." He looked at her. "I don't feel unsafe." Her eyes searched his face. "Then we need to be very careful." He nodded. "I know." But knowing didn't make it easier. Near midnight, the final model locked into place. The plan was solid, strong enough to survive the board. Evelyn exhaled deeply, the tension draining from her shoulders. "You just saved this company a lot of pain." He smiled tiredly. "Team effort." She looked at him then, not as CEO to analyst, but as one human to another. "Thank you," she said softly. The moment stretched. Too long. Mark stood abruptly. "I should get Lily." "Yes," Evelyn said, rising too. "Of course." At the door, she hesitated. "Mark." "Yes." "That text," she said carefully. "I'm glad it was an accident." He met her gaze. "Me too." He left before either of them could say anything else. That night, driving through quiet streets with Lily asleep in the back seat, Mark realized the truth he'd been avoiding. The line between them was still there, but it wasn't fading. It was waiting. Secrets don't stay secret forever. They leak, not in dramatic explosions, but in quiet glances, overheard whispers, and patterns people start to notice when they think no one is watching. It began with a rumor. Mark heard it in the break room on a Monday morning, disguised as a joke between two junior analysts. "Careful," one of them laughed. "If you work late enough, the CEO might start bringing you coffee too." The other snorted. "Yeah, but only if you Mark." They didn't see him standing there. The laughter died instantly. Mark's stomach twisted. "What does that mean?" They exchanged looks. "Nothing, man. Just office talk." Office talk. By lunchtime, it was everywhere. Not explicit. Not cruel. Just enough to make his skin crawl. People noticed how often Evelyn called on him in meetings. How he was always staffed on high-visibility projects. How she defended his models when executives questioned them. No one mentioned the text. They didn't need to. The implication did the work for them. By Wednesday, Mark was eating lunch at his desk again, like he had in the early days when he couldn't afford to look distracted. He focused on Lily's science project in his head instead of the low hum of voices outside his cubicle. Then the email came. Subject: HR inquiry. From Human Resources. Message: please come see us at 3 p.m. His heart sank. This time, there was no pretending. At 2:58, Evelyn appeared beside his desk. "We'll go together," she said quietly. The fact that she said together sent a ripple through the office. Conversations paused. Eyes lifted. Mark nodded, pulse racing. HR's conference room was too bright, too white. A woman named Karen, kind eyes, neutral voice, gestured for them to sit. "We've received concerns," Karen said, folding her hands, "about potential favoritism." Evelyn didn't flinch. "On what basis?" "Perception," Karen said carefully. "Late nights. Private meetings. Preferential assignments." Mark opened his mouth, but Evelyn spoke first. "This is my responsibility," she said. "If anyone feels disadvantaged, that's on me." Karen nodded. "We're not accusing. We're assessing." She turned to Mark. "Do you feel pressured in any way?" "No," he said firmly. "Never." "Have you received any personal advances?"
No.
Karen glanced at Evelyn. "And you?" "No," Evelyn said. "And I wouldn't." Silence settled. Karen sighed. Perception matters. Even when nothing inappropriate exists. Evelyn straightened. "What are you recommending?" "A temporary reassignment," Karen said. "Different reporting line. Different projects." Mark's chest tightened. Evelyn didn't hesitate. "Do it." He turned to her. "You don't have to." "I do," she said quietly. "For you." The decision spread through the office by the end of the day. Mark was reassigned to a lower visibility team. Still important. Still fair. But it felt like a demotion, even if it wasn't officially one. That night, Mark sat on the edge of Lily's bed as she brushed her teeth. "Are you mad?" she asked suddenly. "No," he said. "Why would I be?" "You've been quiet," she said. "Like when you're thinking too hard." He smiled faintly. "Just grown-up stuff." She looked at him seriously. "You always fix things." He swallowed. "I hope so." At work, Evelyn kept her distance. No late nights. No private emails. No coffee. Just formal meetings and professional nods. And yet, somehow that hurt more. 2 weeks later, the board meeting happened. The recovery plan, Mark's plan, saved the quarter. The praise went to Evelyn. She accepted it smoothly. But when the room emptied, she found Mark waiting by the window. "I wanted you to hear it from me," she said. "The board approved a restructure." He braced himself. "Okay. I'm stepping down as your direct CEO contact," she continued. "I'll be moving into an advisory role next quarter." He stared. "Why?" "Because I refuse to let gossip define either of us," she said. "And because leadership means sacrifice." "For you," he said quietly. "For both of us," she corrected. The city lights reflected in the glass between them. "This is goodbye then?" he asked. She met his eyes. "Professionally? Yes." He nodded slowly. "And personally?" he asked before he could stop himself. Evelyn's breath caught. "We'll see," she said softly. "If the world will let us." As she walked away, Mark understood something painfully clear. Sometimes doing the right thing costs more than doing the wrong one. And the bill had just come due. The silence that followed felt louder than the rumors ever had. No late-night emails. No unexpected meetings. No reason anymore for Evelyn Carter to cross Mark's path except in carefully scheduled, carefully populated rooms. Professionally, everything worked. Personally, something hollow settled in his chest. Mark threw himself into routine. Morning lunches. Homework checks. Weekend laundry. Lily's world kept spinning, blissfully unaware of corporate politics or whispered scandals. Until one evening, as Mark tucked her into bed, Lily asked the question he'd been dreading. "Why don't you smile at work anymore?" He froze. "What makes you think that?" "You forgot your badge on the table," she said. "I saw your picture." He laughed quietly and brushed her hair back. "I'm just tired." She studied him the way children do, too honest to be fooled. "You don't miss your job," she said. "You miss someone." The truth sat between them, undeniable. "I do," he admitted. "Then why don't you talk to her?" "Because," he said gently, "sometimes adults aren't allowed to." Lily frowned. "That's dumb." He smiled sadly. "I agree." 3 months passed. Winter melted into spring. The company stabilized. The rumors faded, replaced by newer scandals, newer names. And then, on a Tuesday afternoon, Mark received a calendar invite. From Evelyn Carter. Subject: coffee. Public cafe. Off-site. No agendas attached. Mark stared at the screen for a full minute before clicking accept. They hadn't spoken alone since the restructure. When he arrived, Evelyn was already there. No blazer, no title, just a woman in a soft sweater holding a paper cup like it grounded her.
Hi, she said.
Hi, he replied. They sat. For a moment, neither spoke. Finally, Evelyn smiled faintly. I didn't know how else to reach out. I'm glad you did, Mark said honestly. She took a breath. I'm resigning. His heart skipped. What? Not because of you, she said quickly. Because I've realized I've been living inside other people's expectations for too long. She met his eyes. I sold my shares. I'm stepping away. The weight of her words settled slowly. And us? He asked carefully. There is no us if there's still a power imbalance, she said. So I removed it. He let out a shaky laugh. You always were thorough. She smiled. You once sent me a text by accident. He groaned. Please don't. But that text, she said softly, was the first time someone saw me without the title. They talked for hours. About Lily. About leadership. About loneliness that looks like success from the outside. As they stood to leave, Evelyn hesitated. I won't ask you for anything. But I wanted you to know what we choose next is chosen. Mark nodded. That night his phone buzzed. A new message. From Evelyn. This one is intentional. He smiled. For the first time in months, so did she. And this time, there was no mistake. Only two people finally allowed to tell the truth.